Hey, what's up, y'all? It's me, Nate Almighty. I'm back with another Power Theory video. Also for Power Book 4 Season 3. The topic of today's video is we do a ghetto reaction to the Getting It How I Live channel. The missing scenes in New York City crossover that sets up Legacy. So we will be detailing the missing scenes that went on in Book 2 Ghost, to missing scenes that we're likely to see in Force Season 3, that will let us know that there's a connection going from these two shows into Power Legacy. Now, with the way that they've been filming things within Stars, the way that they give us, or they gave us a flashback at the beginning of the Raising Kanan Season 4, we know for sure that they are definitely capable of giving us scenes in the future that were shot that we never seen in order to tell the story as well. All that and more in today's theory. Let me see if he says some things I might have suspected. But without further ado, let's get to it.
Everybody, one of the crossovers that we've been waiting on to take place since season 2 of Power Book Force looks like it's about to happen in the next couple episodes of Force. As in the closing minutes of season 3, episode 2, Tommy got a text message from JP that said Kate checked herself out of the hospital and went back to New York.
Man, the fact that JP wasn't even in the scene and they acting like he just sent the text, the question with that is will we even see JP? Did he already film his death scene the end of last season and they just holding it for us because he really wasn't a part of season 3 at all? Inquiring minds want to know.
This is after, at the end of season 2, Kate did the coke that Tommy gave her and OD'd and was last seen unconscious in a hospital bed last time we saw her on the screen in Force. But most of us knew that it wasn't going to be the end of Kate, because the fact we knew at some point on the Force timeline, Kate Egan would go back to New York City for when she received the letter from Diana Tejada with Tasha's address. Keeping in mind that the Force timeline is still behind the Book 2 timeline, and this still hadn't happened yet on the Force timeline. Season 1 of Force ended during the time jump between seasons 2 and 3 of Ghost. And during season 2 of Force, Tommy mentioned in a text message to Miguel that it was July. And now that we know that Kate has went back to New York, there's also a major clue
that it was July. Meanwhile, it's wintertime the entire fucking time on Power, ever since season 1.
From Power Book 2, season 4.
We only ever did not see wintertime when Ghost went to celebrate his new love, rekindling with Angela.
That lets us know that this hadn't taken place yet on the Force timeline. In season 4 it goes when Tariq and Monet were trying to figure out who it was who gave Tasha's address to Kate Egan for her to give to Tommy, and also who was pinning it on Monet. They sent Peaky to try to figure out what was going on. And when he reported back to Tariq and Monet,
Pinky's a man.
Said that Kate Egan's house was completely cleaned out, and it doesn't look like anybody's been there for a minute. Keeping in mind at the end of season 3, when Kate went back to New York and Diana gave her that letter, when Tariq showed up to Kate's house, she had moving boxes everywhere, indicating she was packing her things and planning to move to Chicago full time. And that was confirmed in season 4 that she actually did make this move because they said her house had been completely cleaned out. So now that JP's texting Tommy that Kate went back to New York, this lets us know that the events at the end of season 3 of Ghost still hadn't taken place yet on the Force timeline.
That's right.
Because Kate wouldn't go back to New York to stay in an empty house. We should have known that Kate was going to go back to New York and pack her things to bring to Chicago eventually anyway, because the fact we know from OG Power that Kate is attached to her things like her music and other things like she had in her house, like her dolls. So she would want to go back to New York and get all that eventually. And with that said, most of us also expect that JP is going to die in season 3 of Force. But keep in mind that when
JP's out of here,
and Tommy went back to New York in season 3 of Ghost, JP was still alive. Because Tommy was telling Tasha about how he had found out that he had a brother and a nephew and how he was trying to keep them safe. So we also know that Tommy goes back to New York before the death of JP. Now that we know that for season 3 is the final season of Tommy's chapter in Chicago, I definitely believe that when Tommy goes back to New York City for this crossover, it's ultimately going to set up some of the connections for when Tommy leaves Chicago and Power Book Legacy begins.
Yes, sir.
Because there's been a lot of questions concerning what city Power Legacy will take place in. And I'm definitely convinced that it'll be New York City. Because in a recent interview with the Breakfast Club, when Joseph Sikora was asked about the ending of the Power universe, he said that talks have only been about expansion. Then he went on to talk about Power Origins being based out of NYC, and also said that he bets there will be more spin-offs out of New York City as well. So to me, this sounds like Sikora already knows that Legacy is going to be in New York. And even though Joseph Sikora is from Chicago, he lives in New York. All the more reason why Legacy is likely going to be.
But then it's like, how is Tommy going to work his way back to New York? Where some low-key feds may know he's still alive. Most other cops and feds know that or believe that he's dead. How's that going to work? How's that going to work if he replants himself in New York City?
In New York. And there's also the fact that Jannard just finished giving a speech about Chicago in episode 2 and specifically said that this ain't New York and looked at Tommy. So either though Tommy's supposed to be dead in New York, I think they'll figure out a way to get Tommy back in New York for Power Legacy. So when we see Tommy go back to New York in season 3 of Force, when he hashes,
he would definitely have to go by a new name or something. You can't just be still walking around talking about Tommy Egan.
Things out with Tasha. I'm thinking that we'll ultimately see this trip from Tommy's perspective instead of Tariq's like we saw in book 2. It could be similar to how the final 5 episodes of Power were all from different people's perspectives. But more importantly, we'll finally be able to see what else Tommy did when he was in New York. And like I said, if he ultimately makes some connections, that will be the first breadcrumbs to begin to set the stage for Power Legacy.
This is going to be fucking legendary.
So keep in mind, this whole situation started with the death of Cooper Sachs, who supposedly sent out a bunch of letters upon his death. And some of them went out to people like Monet Tejada and 2-Bit, and their letters had Tasha's Whitsick address on them. But I say supposedly they came from Sachs because there's still questions if Sachs was actually who sent these letters out, because the fact
Did Ghost try to have Tommy kill Tasha?
The flash drive that Junior Young received mentioned green cards that Rashad Tate got for Obi, but Sachs was already dead before Obi even asked Tariq about getting him green cards. So this is still something else that needs to be fleshed out as well. But once Monet got the letter, she didn't believe what it said, that it was calling Tariq a snitch, and just left it there. But Diana took it and used it as part of her and Drew's plan to get Monet killed, and dropped it off at Kate's to give to Tommy. Keep it in mind that Diana and Drew knew about the whole situation with Tommy and Tasha, and also that Tommy's alive because they pulled up at the graveyard to have Tariq's back at the end of season 1 of Ghost. Then Tariq found out about these letters going out from 2-Bit, who made him trade his Porsche for Tasha's Whitsick location, telling Tariq unless he wants somebody to shoot his moms. A lot of people think that that indicated that 2-Bit knew Tommy was alive, but he said somebody and not Tommy. So I don't think that actually confirms that 2-Bit knew Tommy was alive.
Yeah, he don't necessarily know yet. I don't believe he know Tommy's alive yet either.
But with that said, after that happens while Tommy's in New York, we could definitely see him cross paths with 2-Bit. Something else to keep in mind is that Tommy killed 2 marshals who were protecting Tasha that night. And someone killing 2 marshals is no small thing, so I wouldn't be surprised if an investigation could take place in New York about who killed those marshals. But Tommy was still in New York the next day after he hashed things out with Tasha, because after Tariq went to Kate's, Tommy met Tariq outside of Noma's warehouse. Another question that needs to be answered in this crossover: How did Tommy know where Noma's warehouse was? Then later, when
How did he know?
Tariq was about to kill Monet, but Tasha did the drive-by instead. After this, both Tasha and Davis McLean mentioned how Tommy told Tariq not to make a move against Monet. Again, how did both Tasha and Davis know what Tommy told Tariq unless Tommy had talked to both Tasha and Davis?
Tommy definitely stopped and had some words with Davis. Probably threatened Davis' life.
Off screen. Because it wasn't Tariq who told either one of them that he talked to Tommy. So again, we need to know what was said during these conversations. If Tommy and Tasha ever rode around and spoke to Blunt like old times. And also if it was Tommy who hooked Tasha up with the gun she shot Monet with. Then there's also the question, will we see Cash Grant and his father Kadeem when Tommy goes back to New York? Because we know Tommy went to check on Cash the first time he went to New York in season 1 of Ghost. So the 5 characters that Tommy could have met with off screen in book 2 that we can finally see now that the Force timeline is caught up. And we're about to see this trip from Tommy's perspective is 2-Bit, Davis, Tasha, Cash, and Kadeem. I also wouldn't be surprised if Diana Tejada makes a quick cameo if it shows her dressed up like Monet in season 3 of Force. Keeping in mind that some of those scenes were in a faded color in book 2, possibly indicating that they would use the regular color footage of the same scene in.
Okay. Well, there you have it. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Without further ado, well, not without further ado, I mean, peace.
Can't teach that shit, nigga. Come on. That's gotta get that. That's touch my ink. That's on the dome, nigga.